The first time I saw Troy again, I almost didn't recognize him. Not because he looked different, he didn't, not really. Same dark hair, a little longer now. Same way he stood slightly angled when he was talking to someone, like he never fully gave himself away. But there was something in his expression that hadn't been there before. Or maybe something that used to be there was gone. Either way, it threw me off. I was halfway through ordering coffee when I noticed him at the end of the counter, scrolling on his phone like the world around him didn't exist. For a second, I thought my brain was playing some kind of cruel trick on me, that it had pulled his face out of memory just to see if I'd still react. I did. My chest tightened so fast it almost felt physical. I hadn't seen him in 8 months. 8 months since everything fell apart. Since I said things I couldn't take back. Since I made a mistake big enough to lose the only person who ever actually understood me. I told myself to ignore him. Take the coffee, walk out, pretend this wasn't happening. But then he looked up. And just like that, there was no pretending. His eyes landed on mine, and I saw it immediately, the recognition, followed by something colder. Controlled. Mason, he said. Not surprised. Not warm. Just my name. Troy. I replied, trying to sound normal and failing. There was a pause. The kind that stretches too long, where both people are deciding whether to stay or leave. He stayed. You still come here? He asked, glancing around like he was trying to ground the moment in something casual. Sometimes, I said. You? Yeah. Another pause. God, I hated pauses now. Before, with Troy, silence used to feel easy. Comfortable. Like we didn't need to fill every second with words just to prove something. Now it felt like standing on broken glass. The barista called my name. I grabbed my coffee too quickly, nearly spilling it, and stepped aside. I should have left. I knew that. Instead, I stayed. I didn't know you were back in the city, I said. I moved back a few weeks ago, he replied. Work. Right. I nodded like that explained everything. It didn't. There were 1,000 things I wanted to ask. How he'd been. If he was okay. If he ever thought about me. But I didn't deserve those answers. Not after what I did. He picked up his drink, hesitated, then looked at me again. You look good. It sounded polite. Distant. Thanks, I said. You too. That wasn't a lie. If anything, he looked more grounded than before. Like he'd figured something out while he was gone. I wondered if that something included how to live without me. Anyway, he said, shifting his weight. I should. Troy. I cut in before I could stop myself. He froze. I swallowed, suddenly very aware that I hadn't planned anything past saying his name. I started, then stopped. Sorry. The words sat heavy on my tongue. Too small. Too late. Too useless after everything that happened. He watched me carefully. Not impatient. Just guarded. I didn't expect to see you, I finished weakly. His expression didn't change. Yeah. Silence again. This time he broke it. Take care, Mason. And just like that, he walked past me. No hesitation. No looking back. I stood there long after the door closed behind him, coffee going cold in my hand, heart pounding like I'd just run into something I wasn't ready to face. Because I wasn't. Not him. Not the past. Not the truth of how badly I'd messed things up. The thing about serious mistakes is that they don't feel serious when you're making them. Not in the moment. In the moment, they feel justified. Necessary, even. Like you're protecting something yourself, your pride, your fear of losing control. It's only later, when everything's already broken, that you realize what you actually did. With Troy, it happened slowly. We'd been together for almost a year. Not officially at first, just two people who kept choosing each other until it stopped being casual and started being something real. He was steady in a way I wasn't. I overthought everything. He didn't. I pulled away when things got too intense. He leaned in. And somehow it worked. Until it didn't. It started with something small. It always does. A misunderstanding. A missed call. A night where I chose something else over him, something that didn't matter in the long run, but felt important at the time. You've been distant, he told me one evening, sitting across from me in my apartment. I've just been busy, I replied. That was the first lie. Not a huge one. Not dramatic. But it set the tone. Because the truth was, I was scared. Scared of how much I was starting to need him. Scared of how easily he could see through me. Scared that if I let myself fully fall into him, I'd lose whatever control I thought I had over my own life. So I did what I always did. I created distance. Canceled plans. Took longer to reply. Acted like everything was fine while slowly pulling away. Troy noticed. Of course he did. He always noticed. You can just tell me if something's wrong, he said one night, his voice calm but firm. Nothing's wrong, I insisted. Second lie. He leaned back, studying me. Mason. The way he said my name quiet, steady usually made me feel safe. That night, it made me defensive. I said I'm fine, I snapped. That was the moment things shifted. Not dramatically, not all at once, but enough. Enough for him to stop reaching quite as much. Enough for the space between us to start feeling real. And instead of fixing it, I made it worse. The night everything fell apart is burned into my memory in pieces. His apartment, the low hum of the city outside, the way he looked at me like he was already bracing for impact. I feel like I'm losing you, he said. Simple, honest. And instead of telling him the truth that I was scared, that I didn't know how to hold on to something this real, without messing it up, I did the worst possible thing. I pushed him away first. Maybe you are, I said. Even now, I can hear how cold that sounded. His expression didn't break immediately. That wasn't Troy. He processed things slowly, carefully. What does that mean, he asked. It means maybe this isn't working, I replied. There it was. The mistake. The moment I chose fear over honesty. He nodded once, like he was absorbing the impact. Okay. Not a fight. Not anger. Just acceptance. That scared me more than anything else could have. Okay. I repeated, like I wanted him to argue. You said it's not working, he replied. I'm not going to force you to stay. I should have stopped right there. I should have taken it back. Instead, I doubled down. I think we rushed into this, I said. I think I need space. Every word felt like I was digging deeper, but I couldn't stop. Troy looked at me for a long moment. And in that moment, I saw at the exact second something inside him shut down. Then take it, he said. No anger. No pleading. Just distance. That was the last real conversation we had. Because by the time I realized I didn't actually want space, he was already gone. Standing in that coffee shop 8 months later, watching the door he'd walked through, one thought kept repeating in my head. I don't deserve a second chance. But that didn't stop me from wanting one. I didn't sleep that night. Not after seeing Troy. Not after hearing his voice again like nothing had changed except everything had. I kept replaying the moment in the coffee shop over and over, like if I analyzed it enough, I'd find some hidden detail I missed. Some sign that he didn't completely hate me. But Troy wasn't the kind of person who showed hate. That would have been easier. No, Troy did something worse. He moved on quietly. And I had no idea what to do with that. The next morning, I went back. I told myself it was for the coffee. That was a lie. I got there earlier this time, before the usual rush. The place was quieter, softer. For a second, I almost convinced myself he wouldn't be there. Then I saw him. Same spot. Same calm presence. Like he hadn't just walked back into my life and completely shaken it. I hesitated at the door. This was a bad idea. I knew that. But leaving felt worse. So I walked in. He noticed me immediately this time. His eyes flicked up, held mine for a second longer than yesterday. Not warm, but not dismissive either. That was something. I ordered my coffee slower than necessary, buying time I didn't actually know how to use. My hands felt stupidly tense, like I was about to walk into something I couldn't control. Which, to be fair, I was. When I turned around, he was still watching me. Not in an intense way, just aware. I took a breath and walked over. Hey, I said. Hey, he replied. No tension in his voice. That almost made it worse. Can I? I gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. He paused, just long enough for me to feel it. Then he nodded. Sure. I sat down, trying not to overthink where to put my hands, how to look, how to exist in front of him again without making it obvious that I was completely thrown off. So, I started, immediately hating how empty that sounded. So, he echoed, just as flat. God, we used to be so easy. What are you doing back? I asked. Here, I mean. You said work. Yeah, he said. Got an offer I couldn't really turn down. That's good. Yeah. Another pause. I forced myself to keep going. You like it? It's fine, he replied, still settling in. I nodded, staring at my coffee like it might help me come up with something better to say. It didn't. Troy leaned back slightly, studying me again. Not harsh. Just careful. You don't have to do this, you know, he said. I looked up. Do what? This, he repeated. Force a conversation. That stung more than I expected. I'm not forcing anything, I said, a little too quickly. He didn't argue, just held my gaze. And that was the problem with Troy. He didn't need to push. He just waited long enough for the truth to show up on its own. I exhaled slowly. Okay, I admitted. Maybe I am. His expression didn't change much, but something in his shoulders relaxed slightly. Like honesty was still something he respected, even now. Why, he asked. There it was. The question I deserved. I could have deflected, made it light, kept things on the surface. Instead, I said the only real answer. Because I messed up. The words felt heavy, but not as heavy as holding them in. Troy didn't react immediately. He looked down at his cup, then back at me. That's one way to put it, he said. No anger. Just truth. I swallowed. I've had a lot of time to think about it. I'm sure you have. There was something sharp in that. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just real. I'm not trying to make this weird, I said. I just want to say sorry, he finished. I stopped. Because yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. But hearing it from him made it feel smaller somehow. Like just saying it wouldn't actually fix anything. Still, I nodded. Yeah. He leaned back again, running a hand over the side of his neck like he was thinking through something. Mason, he said slowly, you already made it clear what you wanted back then. I know, I said quickly. And I was wrong. That got his attention, not in a dramatic way, but his eyes sharpened slightly, like he wasn't expecting me to say it that directly. I didn't know how to handle something real. I continued. So I pushed it away before it could get out of my control. He held my gaze. And now, he asked. I didn't look away. Now I know I lost something I shouldn't have. Silence. Longer this time. He didn't rush to fill it. He never did. Finally, he spoke. You didn't just lose something, Mason, he said. You made a choice. The words landed exactly where they needed to. I know, I said quietly. And that choice hurt, he added. I know that too. Another pause. I didn't try to defend myself. Didn't try to explain it away. There wasn't a version of this where I came out looking better. I'm not expecting anything from you, I said after a moment. I just didn't want to see you and pretend like none of it happened. Troy nodded slowly. That's fair. Fair. Not forgiving. Not open. Just fair. It was more than I deserved. We sat there for a few more minutes after that. The conversation didn't magically fix anything. It didn't turn soft or familiar again. But it also didn't fall apart. And somehow, that felt important. When he finally stood up, I felt it immediately, that instinctive panic that he was about to walk away again. I should go, he said. Yeah. I replied, trying not to sound like I wanted him to stay. He hesitated, just slightly, then looked at me. I'm glad you said it, he added. My chest tightened. Yeah. Yeah. A beat. But it doesn't change what happened. Of course it didn't. I know, I said. He gave a small nod. Then he left. Again. But this time, it felt different. Because at least now, the truth was out there. And maybe, just maybe, that was where a second chance started. Not with forgiveness. Not with everything going back to how it was. But with two people sitting across from each other, finally being honest about what broke them in the first place. Even if one of them wasn't ready to let the other back in yet. After that second conversation, I told myself I'd leave it alone. I meant it too. I wasn't going to chase him. Wasn't going to show up every morning like some kind of routine he didn't ask for. If Troy wanted distance, I was going to respect that. That lasted exactly 2 days. Not because I planned to go back. Because I couldn't stop thinking about the way he said, I'm glad you said it. Not warm, but not closed either. And with Troy, that mattered. When I walked into the coffee shop again, I didn't even try to pretend this time. I was there for him. He was already sitting down, laptop open, focused in that quiet way he always had. For a second, I just stood there, watching him. There was something different about seeing him like this again. Before, I used to take it for granted that I could just walk up, sit down, exist next to him like it was the most natural thing in the world. Now, even approaching him felt like asking for permission. I ordered my coffee quickly and walked over. He noticed me, but this time, he didn't look surprised. Hey, I said. Hey, he replied. A small pause. Then, without me asking, he nudged the chair across from him slightly with his foot. It wasn't much, but it was the first invitation he'd given me. I sat down. Am I interrupting? I asked, nodding toward his laptop. A little, he said. I blinked, caught off guard. Then he added, but it's fine. That was new. Before, he would have just said no to make it easier. Now he was being honest, even in small ways. I'll keep it short then, I said. He gave a faint nod, eyes flicking back to the screen for a second before closing the laptop halfway. You don't have to rush, he said. That caught me off guard again. You just said I was interrupting. I was, he replied calmly. Doesn't mean I want you to leave. That did something to my chest I wasn't prepared for. Okay, I said quietly. The conversation started easier this time. Still careful, still measured, but less forced. We talked about simple things at first: work, the city, how much it had changed in the last year. Nothing too personal, nothing too loaded. But underneath it, there was something else. An awareness. Like we both knew we were walking around something bigger. Eventually, I said it. I thought about what you said. He glanced up. Which part? That I made a choice, I replied. His expression didn't change much. And I took a breath. You were right. He didn't respond immediately. I kept telling myself I was just confused. I continued. Or that I needed space. But the truth is, I was scared. Troy watched me carefully. Of what? He asked. Of how much I cared about you, I said. There it was. No taking it back now. I've never had something feel that real before, I added. And instead of holding on to it, I tried to control it. He leaned back slightly, processing that. And pushing me away gave you control? He asked. At the time? Yeah, I admitted. It made me feel like I wasn't the one who could get hurt. A small pause. How'd that work out for you? He asked. There was no sarcasm in his voice. Just a question. I let out a quiet breath. Not great. That almost got a reaction. Not a smile, but something close. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Troy said something I wasn't expecting. I knew something was off. I looked at him. Back then. He nodded. Yeah. You didn't say anything. I did, he replied calmly. You just didn't listen. That hit. Because he was right. I thought if I gave you space, you'd figure it out, he continued. I didn't want to push you into something you weren't ready for. And instead, I walked away, I said. Yeah. No bitterness. Just truth. God, that somehow made it worse. I'm sorry, I said again, quieter this time. Not rushed. Not defensive. Just real. Troy held my gaze for a few seconds. I believe you, he said. My chest tightened. Yeah. I asked. Yeah. Relief hit first. Then something else. Because he didn't say it's okay. I don't expect you to forgive me, I said. Good, he replied. That stopped me. He leaned forward slightly, resting his forearms on the table. Mason, I'm not angry anymore, he said. I was. For a while. I figured. But I'm also not going to pretend it didn't affect me. I wouldn't ask you to. Good, he repeated. Another pause. Then he added, quieter. You don't just get to come back into someone's life because you regret leaving. That one landed deep. I know, I said. And I'm not saying that to shut you out, he continued. I'm saying it because if we're going to talk, really talk, it has to be honest. I nodded. I agree. He studied me for a second, like he was trying to decide something. Then he asked, what do you actually want, Mason? There it was. The real question. Not why are you here? Not are you sorry? But what now? I didn't answer right away. Because for the first time, I didn't want to say the wrong thing. I started, then stopped. Troy didn't rush me. Didn't fill the silence. Just waited. I want a chance to not mess it up this time, I said finally. Honest. Simple. Terrifying. His expression didn't soften. But it didn't close either. A chance for what? He asked. For us, I said. There it was. No hiding behind vague words. No pretending this was just about closure. I wanted him back. And now he knew it. Troy leaned back slowly, eyes still on me. You really think it works like that? He asked. No, I admitted. I don't. Then what are you asking for? I swallowed. Not a reset, I said. I know we can't go back to how things were. Good. But maybe something new, I added. If you're open to it. Silence. Longer this time. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. This was it. The moment where he either shut the door completely or didn't. Finally, he exhaled slowly. You hurt me, he said. I know. And I had to figure out how to be okay without you. That one hit harder than anything else. I didn't want you to have to do that, I said quietly. But I did, he replied. And now I am. I nodded. That made sense. Of course it did. So where does that leave us? I asked. He looked at me for a long moment, then said something that shifted everything just slightly. I don't know yet. Not no. Not yes. Just not closed. And for the first time since I saw him again, it felt like maybe I hadn't lost him completely. Just not in the way I had him before. I don't know yet. That's what Troy said. And somehow, those 4 words stayed with me longer than anything else. Not because they were hopeful, but because they weren't final. After that conversation, things didn't magically change. We didn't suddenly fall back into old habits. There was no easy laughter, No comfortable silence like before. If anything, everything felt more deliberate. Like every word mattered now. Like every interaction was being measured. And I understood why. I didn't go back the next day. That was intentional. Not because I didn't want to see him, but because I didn't want this to turn into me showing up until he gave in. That wasn't a second chance. That was pressure. And Troy deserved better than that. 3 days later, my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. I trained myself not to expect messages I actually wanted. But when I glanced down and saw his name, Troy, my chest tightened instantly. For a second, I just stared at it. Like if I opened it too fast, it might disappear. Then I tapped it. Troy, you still go to that place every morning? I read it twice. Then a third time. He texted me, not the other way around. I sat down slowly, trying not to overthink what it meant. But of course, I did anyway. Me. Not every morning. Why? There was a pause. Long enough to make me second-guess everything. Then, Troy, I'm here. That was it. No explanation. No follow-up. Just, I'm here. And somehow, that said everything. I got there faster than I should have. I told myself to slow down, to not look like I dropped everything the second he texted. But the truth was, I had. When I walked in, I spotted him immediately. Same table. But this time, he wasn't on his laptop. He was just sitting there, waiting for me. That realization hit differently. I walked over, trying to keep my expression neutral, but I could already feel my heartbeat picking up. Hey, I said. Hey, he replied. No hesitation. No distance in his tone this time. Just steady. I sat down across from him. You texted? I said, like I needed to confirm it actually happened. He gave a small nod. Yeah. A pause. Then, hope that's okay. That almost caught me off guard. You don't need permission to text me, I said. His eyes held mine for a second. I wasn't sure. That landed deeper than I expected. Because of course he wasn't sure. I was the one who walked away. We sat there for a moment, neither of us rushing to fill the silence. But this time, it wasn't as heavy. Still careful. Still aware. But not as sharp. I thought about what you said, he said eventually. Which part? I asked. About wanting something new, he replied. I nodded slowly. Yeah. He leaned back slightly, studying me again. You're different, he said. That threw me off. How? You're not trying to convince me, he replied. I frowned a little. Was I supposed to? Before, he said. Yeah, you would have. I thought about that. And he wasn't wrong. Old me would have pushed harder. Tried to say the perfect thing. Tried to fix everything in one conversation. Now, I just didn't want to lie anymore. I think I'm just tired of saying the wrong things, I admitted. That got a small reaction. Not a smile, but something softer. Good, he said quietly. There was a shift after that. Subtle, but real. We didn't jump into anything heavy right away. We just talked. About normal things. Work. Annoying coworkers. The city. Random memories that didn't carry too much weight. At one point, he mentioned something about a place we used to go to. Then stopped. Like he wasn't sure if he should have brought it up. I noticed. You can talk about it, I said. He looked at me. About what? Us, I replied. Or anything connected to it. A pause. I don't want it to feel like we have to pretend that part didn't exist. His expression shifted slightly at that. Not guarded. Just thoughtful. Okay, he said. And just like that, something opened. Do you ever think about it? He asked after a while. I didn't need him to clarify. Yeah, I said. All the time. What do you think about? I hesitated. Then chose honesty. The way I handled things, I admitted. What I should have done differently. He nodded slowly. I think about the good parts, he said. That caught me off guard. Yeah. Yeah, he replied. At least now I do. I didn't expect that. I used to just think about how it ended, he added. But that gets exhausting. I let out a quiet breath. Yeah, it does. A small silence settled between us. But this time, it wasn't uncomfortable. I meant what I said before, he continued. I'm okay now. I believe you, I said. And I don't need anything from you, he added. That one stung a little. But I nodded. That's fair. Another pause. Then, but that doesn't mean I don't, he stopped. Didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. I felt it anyway. What? I asked quietly. He looked at me for a long second. Then said it. It doesn't mean I don't still care about you. That hit harder than anything else so far. Because it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't emotional. It was just real. I still care about you too, I said. No hesitation. No overthinking. Just truth. We didn't rush after that. Didn't turn it into something bigger than it was. But something had definitely changed. The distance wasn't gone, but it wasn't as solid anymore. When we got up to leave, we ended up walking out together. Same direction. That felt strange. Familiar in a way I hadn't felt in months. We walked side by side for a bit, neither of us speaking. Then Troy said, "I'm not ready to jump into anything." "I know," I replied. "And I don't know if I will be," he added. "I know that too." He glanced at me. "You're not making this easy." I huffed a quiet laugh. "I don't think it's supposed to be easy." "Yeah," he said. "Probably not. Another few steps." Then he slowed slightly. "I'm willing to see where this goes," he said. My chest tightened. Not a promise. Not a guarantee. But something. "I'd like that," I replied. He nodded. Then, after a brief hesitation, "Same time tomorrow?" he asked. And just like that, it didn't feel like I was chasing him anymore. It felt like we were both choosing to take a step forward. Carefully, but together. The next morning, I didn't set an alarm. I didn't need to. I woke up before it anyway. That kind of restless, half-aware sleep where your mind is already ahead of you, already replaying things, already anticipating what's coming next. Because this time, I wasn't just hoping to see Troy. We had a plan. Same time tomorrow. Simple, but it meant something. I got there first. That was new. Before, Troy was always the one who showed up early. Calm. Settled. Like he belonged wherever he was. Now I was the one sitting there, coffee untouched, checking the door every few seconds like I didn't trust time to move normally. I hated how obvious it probably looked. But I couldn't help it. Because this, whatever this was, it mattered. More than I was ready to admit out loud. When he finally walked in, I felt it instantly. That shift. Like my body recognized him before my brain could catch up. He spotted me right away. And this time, he smiled. Not big. Not overwhelming. But real. And that alone almost threw me off more than anything else so far. "Hey," he said, walking over. "Hey," I replied, trying not to stare like that small change meant everything. It kind of did. "You're early," he added. "So are you," I said. He glanced at the clock on the wall. "I guess we both are." A small pause. Then he sat down across from me. No hesitation. "Did you sleep?" he asked. I huffed a quiet laugh. "Not really." "Yeah," he said. "Same." That felt weirdly good. Not because he didn't sleep, but because I wasn't the only one affected by this. The conversation started easier again. Even easier than yesterday. We didn't circle around things as much. Didn't hesitate before every sentence. It still wasn't like before, but it was closer. And that scared me a little. Because I knew how easily I could fall back into old patterns. And I couldn't afford to mess this up again. At some point, Troy leaned back slightly, watching me in that same thoughtful way. "You're thinking too much," he said. I blinked. "What?" "You do that," he added. "When something matters to you." That caught me off guard. "You always notice that?" I asked. "Yeah," he replied simply. Of course he did. Troy noticed everything. Even the things I tried to hide. "I just don't want to screw this up again," I admitted. There it was. No pretending. No deflecting. His expression softened slightly, not dramatically, but enough. "You don't get to control that completely," he said. I frowned. "That's not very reassuring." "It's not supposed to be," he replied. "It's just true." I leaned back a little, processing that. "I can't promise I won't get hurt again," he added. That one hit deeper. "I know," I said quietly. "And you can't promise you won't mess something up," he continued. "Also true." He nodded once. "So maybe stop trying to manage every outcome." Easier said than done. But still, he wasn't wrong. "I'm not the same person I was back then," I said after a moment. He looked at me. "I can see that." "You can." "Yeah." A pause. "You're actually listening now," he added. That almost made me laugh. "I always listened." "No," he said calmly. "You heard me. But you didn't take it in." "Yeah, that was fair." "I don't expect you to trust me right away," I said. "I don't," he replied. Again honest. No sugarcoating. "But I'm here," I added. "And I'm not going anywhere this time." That hung between us. He didn't respond immediately. Just looked at me. Like he was weighing the words, not just hearing them. "Consistency," he said finally. "What?" "That's what matters," he explained. "Not what you say right now." I nodded slowly. "Okay. Anyone can say the right thing once," he added. "It's what you do after that." That made sense. It also meant this wasn't something I could fix in a day, or a week, or maybe even a month. And for the first time, I was okay with that. We stayed longer than usual that morning. Neither of us in a rush to leave. At some point, The conversation drifted into something lighter again, something easy. And then, without thinking, I said, we should do something that's not just this. Troy paused. Like what? I don't know, I admitted. Something outside of coffee and emotional damage control. That got an actual smile out of him. Emotional damage control, he repeated. You know what I mean. Yeah, he said, still smiling slightly. A small pause. Then, okay. That caught me off guard. Okay. I repeated. Yeah, he said. We can do that. Something in my chest shifted again. What did you have in mind, he asked. I thought for a second. Nothing complicated, I said. Just normal. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. Normal sounds good. When we stood up to leave this time, the energy felt different again. Less fragile. Still careful, but steadier. We walked outside together, the morning air cooler than I expected. For a second, we just stood there, like neither of us was sure how to end it. Before, this would have been automatic. Now it wasn't. I'll text you, I said. He nodded. Okay. A beat. Then, hey, Mason. Yeah. He hesitated, just slightly, then said, don't disappear this time. That hit harder than anything else so far. Because it wasn't angry. It wasn't accusing. It was just real. I won't, I said. And for the first time, I meant it without hesitation. As he walked away, I didn't feel that same panic from before. Didn't feel like I was losing him again. Because this time, he wasn't walking away from me. We were just not there yet. And maybe that was okay. Maybe a second chance doesn't start with everything falling back into place. Maybe it starts like this. Slow, careful, honest, and actually worth building the right way this time. I didn't disappear. That was the first promise I actually kept without messing it up halfway through. And Troy noticed. Of course he did. The first normal thing we did wasn't anything special. No big plans. No pressure. Just a walk. It was my idea, but when I texted him, I kept it simple. You free later? He took a while to respond. Not in a way that felt like avoidance, just thoughtful. Then, yeah, that was it. No overthinking. No extra questions. Just yeah. We met in the early evening. Different from the coffee shop. Different energy. Less structured. Less safe. And I felt it immediately. Because this wasn't neutral ground anymore. This was us, outside of routine. Hey, he said when he saw me. Hey. A small pause. Then we both kind of smiled. Awkwardly. Like we were figuring out a new version of something that used to be automatic. Ready? I asked. For a walk, he replied. Yeah. He huffed a quiet laugh. I think I can handle that. We started walking without much direction. Just side by side. And for the first few minutes, it was quiet. Not tense. But not completely relaxed either. Just aware. This is weird, I said eventually. He glanced at me. A little. Not bad weird, I added quickly. I know, he said. A pause. Then, it's just different. Yeah, that was exactly it. We walked past places I recognized. Places we used to go to together. Neither of us pointed it out, but I could feel it. Every memory sitting just under the surface. At some point, Troy slowed slightly. You're doing it again, he said. What? Thinking too much. I let out a breath. Is it that obvious? Yes. I shook my head, half smiling. I don't know how to turn it off. You don't have to, he said. Just don't let it control everything you say. I looked at him. I'm trying not to mess this up. I know, he replied. A beat. Just don't overcorrect either. That made me pause. Overcorrect. Yeah, he said. You used to pull away. Now you're trying to do everything right. That's not a bad thing, is it? It can be, he said. If it's not real. That hit. Because I knew what he meant. I'm not faking anything, I said. I didn't say you were, he replied calmly. I'm just saying, don't turn into someone else just to make this work. I nodded slowly. Be the version of you that actually stays, he added. We kept walking. And slowly, it got easier. The conversation started to flow more naturally. We joked about random things. Complained about work. Talked about stupid stuff that didn't carry emotional weight. And for the first time since seeing him again, I forgot to overthink. Just for a little while. At one point, we ended up near a quiet street. Less crowded. Slower. And that's where the conversation shifted again. Can I ask you something? Troy said. Yeah. Why now? I looked at him. What do you mean? Why are you here now? He clarified. Not 8 months ago. Not 3 months ago. That was a fair question. A hard one. I took a breath. Because it took me that long to actually understand what I did. I said. He didn't interrupt. Before, I just felt bad. I continued. But I didn't really get it. And now I do, I said. Now I know I didn't just walk away. I made you feel like what we had wasn't real. His expression shifted slightly. Not closed, just heavier. That's exactly what it felt like, he said. I know, I replied quietly. A pause. I hate that I made you feel like that. He nodded once. I know you do. We stopped walking at some point without really deciding to. Just standing there, facing each other. And the moment felt different, more real, more exposed. I'm not expecting things to go back to how they were, I said. Good, he replied. But I do want to build something again, I added. He studied me. You keep saying that, he said. Because I mean it. I know, he said. A pause. Then, I just don't know what that looks like yet. That's okay, I said. And this time, I actually meant it. We stood there for a second longer than necessary, neither of us moving. And then, without thinking, I stepped a little closer. Not much, just enough to close some of the space. Troy didn't step back, but he didn't move forward either. He just stayed. I missed you, I said. Quiet. Honest. No build-up. His eyes held mine. I know, he replied. That wasn't what I expected. Not I missed you too. Just, I know. And somehow, that felt more real. A small silence settled between us again. But this time, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was full. I'm not there yet, he said after a moment. I know, but I'm not closed off either. That mattered. A lot. I know that too, I said. We started walking again after that. Slower now. Less distance between us. Not touching, but closer. When we finally stopped near his building, there was that same hesitation again. That moment where neither of us knew what the right move was. You good, he asked. Yeah, I said. You? Yeah. A pause. Then, text me when you get home, he said. That one caught me off guard. Yeah, I replied. I will. As I walked away, something felt steady. Not perfect, not certain, but real. Because this time, I wasn't chasing him. And he wasn't running. We were just meeting in the middle. And for now, that was enough. The thing about meeting in the middle is that it sounds simple, balanced, safe. But in reality, it's where everything gets tested. After that walk, things started to shift again. Not dramatically, but enough that I could feel it. We kept seeing each other. Not every day, not on a schedule, but consistently. And that was new. Before, everything between us had been intense or distant no in between. Now, we were building something slower. Something that didn't rely on momentum. Something that could actually hold. A week later, we ended up back at my place. That alone felt significant. Not because it was a big step, but because it used to be normal. And now it wasn't. You've changed this, Troy said, glancing around my apartment. Yeah, I replied. Needed it to feel different. From before, he asked. Yeah. He nodded slowly. I get that. A pause. Then he added, it suits you. That did something to me. Small, but real. We sat on the couch, a little space between us. Not forced. Just there. You seem calmer, he said after a while. I am, I replied. Because of this, he asked. Partly, I admitted. But also because I stopped running from things. He looked at me. That's new. Yeah, I said. It is. There was a moment where everything felt easy. We were talking, laughing a little, falling into a rhythm that felt familiar but not identical to before. And then, I need to be honest about something, Troy said. That immediately shifted the air. Okay, I said. He leaned forward slightly, resting his hands together. I'm still holding back. I nodded. I know. But not because I don't care, he added quickly. I know that too. He studied me for a second. You're not reacting the way you used to. I'm trying not to, I said. A small pause. I don't want to pressure you, I continued. Or make this feel like you owe me something. You don't, he said immediately. I know, I replied. That's the point. Silence settled for a second. But it wasn't uncomfortable. Just real. I thought about you more than I wanted to, he admitted. That caught me off guard. After everything, he added. I didn't interrupt. I tried to move on, he continued. Told myself it was done. That it had to be. My chest tightened slightly. Did it work? I asked. He shook his head. Not really. That hit. Because it meant I wasn't the only one who carried this. I didn't reach out, he said. I noticed, I replied softly. Yeah. A pause. I didn't trust that it wouldn't just happen again, he added. That one landed deep. I understand that, I said. And I hate that I have a reason to think that, he continued. I nodded slowly. You should, I said. I gave you that reason. He leaned back, exhaling slowly. But you're here now, he said. I am. And you're not acting like before. I'm not. Another pause. Then, I'm trying to believe that, he admitted. That was it. That was the line. Not I believe you. Just, I'm trying. That's enough for me, I said. He looked at me, like he wasn't expecting that answer. It is, he asked. Yeah, I replied. Because I know I don't get instant trust. A beat. I just want the chance to earn it. Something in his expression shifted again. Not fully open, but closer. We sat there for a while after that, not talking much, just existing in the same space. And it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel fragile. It felt steady. At some point, he leaned back into the couch, head tilting slightly toward me. Not touching, but close. And I didn't move. Didn't try to close the gap. Didn't rush it. You're really not pushing anything, he said quietly. I told you I wouldn't, I replied. Yeah. A pause. Then, it makes it harder to keep my distance. That caught me off guard. I turned slightly toward him. Yeah. He nodded. I was prepared for you to try and fix everything all at once, he said. That would have been easier to shut down. But this? I asked. This is, he hesitated. Then said it. This feels real. That hit deeper than anything else. Because that's all I wanted. Not a quick fix. Not a perfect moment. Just something real. I don't want to lose this again, I said quietly. He didn't answer right away. Then don't. Simple. Direct. Exactly like him. A few minutes later, when he stood up to leave, the energy had shifted again. But this time, it felt closer. Not just emotionally. Physically too. There was less space between us now. Less hesitation. At the door, he paused. Looked at me. Like he was deciding something. Then, he stepped closer. Not rushed. Not uncertain. Just intentional. And he hugged me. It wasn't long. It wasn't dramatic. But it meant everything. Because it was the first real contact we'd had since everything ended. When he pulled back, his expression was softer than I'd seen it since all of this started. I'll see you soon, he said. Yeah, I replied. I will. And as he walked away, I realized something. This wasn't about getting back what we had. It was about building something stronger than that. Something that didn't break the first time things got hard. And for the first time, I believed we might actually have a chance. After that night, things didn't suddenly become perfect. They became irreal. And that was better. Troy didn't start staying over. I didn't ask him to. We didn't rush into anything that felt like a shortcut back to what we used to be. Because both of us knew that version didn't work. Instead, we built something different. Slow mornings at the coffee shop turned into longer conversations. Walks turned into plans. Plans turned into routines. Not forced ones. Just natural. And the biggest difference? Consistency. I showed up. Every time. Not just when it was easy. Not just when things felt good. Even on the days when I felt myself slipping into old habits, overthinking, pulling back, wanting control. I stayed. And Troy noticed. You don't disappear anymore, he said one evening. We were back at my place again. Same couch. But everything felt different now. I told you I wouldn't, I replied. Yeah, he said. You did. A pause. Then. And you actually meant it this time. That mattered more than anything else. It wasn't all smooth. There were moments. Small ones, but important. Like the first time he got quiet out of nowhere. We were sitting next to each other, talking about something random, and then he just pulled back. Not physically, but emotionally. I felt it immediately. Old me would have panicked. Overcorrected. Pushed. New me? I paused. You okay? I asked. He nodded. Yeah. Just thinking. And I let that be enough. I didn't chase the answer. Didn't try to fix something that wasn't broken. A few minutes later, he leaned back into the moment on his own. That was new. Another time, he said something that would have triggered me before. I still don't fully trust this yet. It was honest. And it stung. But instead of getting defensive, I just said, I know. And I meant it. Because trust wasn't something I got to demand anymore. It was something I had to earn. Weeks passed. And slowly, things shifted again. It happened one night without warning. We were walking again, like we had a dozen times before. Same quiet streets. Same steady pace. But the energy felt different. Calmer. Less guarded. You know what's weird? Troy said. What? I don't feel like I'm waiting for you to mess this up anymore. I stopped walking. Looked at him. Yeah. I asked. Yeah, he said. A pause. Then, I think I trust you. That hit harder than anything else. Not because it was dramatic, but because it wasn't. It was quiet, certain, real. I stepped a little closer without thinking. You don't know what that means to me? I said. I think I do, he replied. A small silence settled between us. But this one felt complete. I need to say something, I added. He looked at me. Okay. I don't expect things to ever be perfect, I said. But I know I won't run again. His eyes held mine. Good, he said quietly. Because losing you once was enough. That was the truth. The full truth. No fear behind it anymore. He studied me for a long moment. Then, I believe you. And that was it. That was the moment everything finally clicked into place. Not because everything was suddenly fixed, but because we both chose it. Fully. Without hesitation. Later that night, back at my place, we stood in the doorway longer than usual. Not awkward. Not uncertain. Just aware. This feels different, Troy said. It is, I replied. How? I thought about it for a second, then said, because this time, I'm not afraid of how much I care about you. He didn't respond right away. Then, that's all I needed, he said. We didn't rush. We didn't force anything. But when we kissed, it wasn't about getting something back. It was about starting something new. And this time, there was no fear behind it. No hesitation. No running. Just two people who almost lost each other and decided they wouldn't make that mistake again.